may have just stumbled across something that I didn't mean to, and I need to share this. If you've been following the Karen Reed case, we already know that there's a lot of fuckery going around when it comes to just the evidence of Karen Reed's case. We're talking about the taillight, the missing pieces, the now we know doctored video footage. If you were here for my last video, I went over just the most glaring, obvious differences between these two clips right here. We heard Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan speak about how there was no difference in the cameras between when Karen Reed's Lexus, the quote-unquote murder weapon, was in Canton PD's possession versus a recording of earlier in the month of that same year. And then that's when we were all screaming, "The font color! The font color is different!" And some of you actually pointed this out too, that I didn't see, that this image here looks like it's been cropped compared to this image here. And what some of you have been suggesting is that they cropped out the actual timestamp, cropped it, and then put in their own date and timestamp. And if you didn't hear, on Friday, Karen Reed's defense team put in a new motion or new exhibits for the motion to dismiss that only strengthen her argument. And in this new document, we see Karen's team break down Hank Brennan's exhibits and what exactly was wrong with them, all of the inconsistencies. Exhibit number 5 was the exhibit that we're talking about, that video footage that had the different colored timestamps. And what it states is, screenshots establishing that the Commonwealth's Exhibit 2, which purports to show that the, quote, interior Sally Port back wall, that same footage, camera was also inverted on 1/1/2022, and which was played at the direction of Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan in court yesterday, March 5th, 2025. This video footage has a different colored chyron than the 1/29/22 inverted video produced to the defense on April 4th, 2024 from the same camera. It's so elementary and basic, like it's actually laughable. This discrepancy suggests manipulation and further underscores the prejudice to Ms. Reed by the Commonwealth's destruction of the original video files and metadata associated with the download of the video surveillance footage from Canton PD. That video in itself proves that someone from Norfolk County District Attorney's Office, whether it was someone that works in the office like Colleen Crawford, who is their data analysis media person who clearly doesn't know what she's doing, or maybe Helena Rafferty, someone had this evidence, cropped it, edited it, and it only shows that this is what they do. And that got me thinking with the other video footage that we have.
Can you stop the video at the important points? Please do so.
Can you lower it?
We cannot.
Can you zoom in on it?
Your Honor, I would encourage the parties to look at it on the computer. The clarity is much better and it's very clear.
Another piece of video footage that we have is from when Karen Reed's Lexus pulled into her parents' home in Dighton, and then also when it was towed away. This was a big contention point with Hank Brennan saying like, look, it's blown out. The taillight, it's completely destroyed. Now, as a reminder, here's a close-up of what the taillight looked like after Karen Reed hit John O'Keefe. I want you to see how much of the red is missing. Okay, just note that. Just note that for a second. And then note how much red is still in her taillight. I also could go on and on and on about how this doesn't light up red. So when you see it in the actual footage, this looks like it's been blown out, but it hasn't. And in fact, if we go back to the footage of when Karen was originally pulling out of John O'Keefe's house, this is what her taillight looked like. As you can see, that whole taillight is still there, except for that little piece right there. Anyways, back to what I noticed about this particular footage. Because the timestamp was edited on the original Sallyport video, I then started looking at this surveillance video footage and the timestamps. I want to give everyone a reminder that this was taken in 2022. And my first brain went to, Would a video in 2022 have a timestamp that would block this much of the camera? Like, would they use any video footage company? Would they use a solid block when you're looking at surveillance footage, which would then block off a little chunk of what could be, which we see, very important video footage? So I decided to do my research. This is a screen grab from a YouTube video from 10 years ago, and it's from an account that goes over literally just alarm.com things, how to do your camera settings and whatnot. I zoomed in when they were going through different settings of this particular video, and I noticed this. You can see that, yes, although it still has a black box, there's some opacity behind it, so you can see some of the image behind it. This is what I would think a typical camera video would be if they were to have a black background behind the font. This isn't the best screen grab, I know, but if it wouldn't have the black background, my thought would be it would just be a white font with a little tiny black background around the font with no like black box behind it. And I kept looking for examples of a hard black background from the timestamps of any of the alarm.com cameras or etc. I couldn't find any. This is another example of having a black box as a background, but there's opacity to it because, again, you want to see the whole viewing of the camera. You want to see the whole thing. So to put 100% black background behind a font wouldn't make sense. It didn't matter what website I went on, what tutorial things I saw, videos I saw, all of them either looked like this with the opacity background, or they looked like just regular font. Now this could be a complete nothing burger, completely. But then I zoomed in on this and I noticed that the Y is hanging out of the black background. To me, this looks like someone put a whole black bar over the original date and timestamp and then put in a different date and timestamp over it. Now, I'm not saying that the date and time is incorrect. It could be, because we know that Proctor was trying to lie about the date and timestamp, and then it was this information that proved that he was lying about when they got Karen's vehicle, all the things. But it wouldn't make sense if you're using a black background so you could see what the name and the date and time is of the video footage, why you would then have part of one of the single letters hanging off the bottom of it. Like, that doesn't make sense. To back off that, I noticed that the V is like smushed into the E. And then the Y is randomly smushed into a space. The F is cut off with the R is cut off with the O. But the thing is the inconsistency of it. Why isn't the O fucked up with the N? Or why isn't the I fucked up with the V, the W to the A? Like, there's no rhyme or reason to that. Given just how sloppy we know that this prosecution is, would it be completely conspiracy theorist or like unhinged to think that every single piece of the video footage that we're seeing out of them is doctored in some way? Frankly, the pattern we've been seeing, especially out of Special Prosecutor Hank Brennan, is that he tends to present or say things and then have to backtrack them. At this point, I wouldn't even call it misleading. I would just say it's straight up lying.
Give me a flash drive of all of these exhibits.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
If you look at it on a small screen, see right there?
I do see it.
Yep. And then you'll see it again. So the alarm.com video contradicts the defendant.
Again, like I said, this could be a complete nothing burger, and this is how it videos, this is how it records, and then it is what it is. But I also think it would be silly for us to not completely question everything now. Please help me. If you use alarm.com, if your video footage looks like this, if it doesn't look like this, please leave a comments below, because I am so curious to see what you all say about this. Do you think this is doctored, or do you think this is how it is originally recorded? Sound off in the comments below.